Hello and welcome to TOA16 Studio. My name is Vanessa Butz and I'm here with Chris Bird and we're going to talk about another space. Welcome. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks for having me.
We're in a very interesting, unique space here, but can you tell us a little bit more about your talk, Another Space, and what that means?
Yeah, well, my practice, United Visual Artists, for 15 years have been working in creating other spaces for bands and brands, creating installation artworks that have toured the world, and more recently creating artworks that exist in galleries, etc. So having been invited here, I thought it'd be interesting to talk about the spaces within which we work, and in the context of the virtual spaces that people are here discussing. Our work is somewhere between the two, between the digital and the real.
And what does that mean between the two? So you actually make real installations for big bands and you create augmented reality.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, and it's not just with the bands we work with. Part of our work is with bands and with brands, creating these augmented environments within which that they can exist, where they can project themselves, whether it be the brand, whether it be projection mapping on a car, or whether it be creating an installation within which people come and experience things. But for bands, you know, it's interesting because just as if you were going to see a painting in a gallery or a sculpture or a band or a theatre production where we also do some work. Recently we were working with the Paris National Opera on a big work there. There's an interesting space between the performer and the audience. And that's the place where we really find the exciting stuff comes out of.
And you've been working for a long time with some amazing bands and projects. Can you give us some of your top examples?
Well, yeah, I mean, this year I've been 25 years a visual production designer. I started working in clubs as a VJ, mixing visuals live to the music. And that's really where I developed a passion for creating something from nothing, you know, like jamming things together. But, you know, more recently, we don't work so much with the bands or the brands. It's more in creating spaces for people to come and experience things. And what we're interested in is, you know, it's kind of how you use technology to forward your work and how that technology informs us. And if the technology doesn't exist, then we make it. We make our own tools. So to get back to your question, historically, yeah, I've been on tour with the Prodigy and the Pet Shop Boys and U2, and for 15 years we've now been working with Massive Attack, the bands, and it's a super interesting project because an opportunity to work with them forced us to create new ways of delivering the media, and that means for them a message because they're very political. So yeah, that's helped us inform our other work, which is the more of the art stuff. So really we're an art and design practice. The design is the bands and the more corporate event stuff, and the art stuff is more like permanent installed, temporary touring artworks and these things. Well,
I personally love going to these types of installations and gigs and music. In Berlin we have a lot of music. As an audience member, what would be one of the most unique experiences you've delivered to an audience?
What, if they're here in Berlin?
Or all over the world.
We have had some work here in Berlin. I forget the gallery, but we had a piece we worked on recently called Vanishing Point, which is a laser installation, which is considering the relationship between the audience and the work, creating forced perspective using lasers and gauzes and stuff. It was in a gallery here. However, I think our most exciting works are the big scale temporary touring installations. For example, a work Volume, work Origin. They're all up on our website there. These are things that we invite the audience to come onto the stage and they participate in it. Earlier I mentioned there's perhaps a relationship between the audience and the performer. On these big scale works, we get rid of that line and allow people to come in and they become the performer.
They become the stage,
so to say. The stage invites them. We create a space that invites them in and become a performance. They don't realize quite how they're interacting with each other, but the interesting thing is to turn around and see everybody's faces and see the reactions and sometimes that's the most exciting thing, not necessarily the work itself, but the reaction you get from people.
Well, it's a very interdisciplinary type of work. You work along lots of different verticals, and in Berlin we have that as well. And at Tech Open Air as well. What would be how are you finding Tech Open Air Berlin?
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of young guys and girls who have got real vision. And I hope my talk at least gave them some inspiration to think about how they might develop their careers, because, again, we're fascinated with technology, but as technology increases, it enables us in many ways. And I think this conference is a real space where people can identify with these new technologies and discover new ways to express themselves in a bigger and more digital and virtual world. But my message was, don't forget about the real world, because that's where things really happen.
Fantastic. Yeah. That's fantastic, and thank you so much, Chris. And thank you as well for joining us at TOA16.